Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football, even after a loss.
And I'm ready for us to get back to winning this week. I know now we're not going to finish 16-0. You know, I'm good with that. Let's go.
Let's go.
Today on the show, we'll go over the Patriots game, look towards the Bills game, and yes, interview Kendra Stabler Moyes.
Woo! Man, that was a good interview.
It was.
All right, Raider Nation, we want to hear from you. So here's how you can get in touch with us. Leave us a message on the Only Nation podcast voicemail line at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Or you can also text us at that number. Our email address is onlynationpod@gmail.com, and we can also be found on Twitter and Instagram at onlynationpod. You can also check us out on Facebook and YouTube at The Only Nation Podcast. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on all your favorite social media accounts and podcasting apps. Don't forget to send us a message with your name and address, and we'll get some free Raider merch sent out to you. Also, check out our new website at onlynationpod.com.
Okay, and the latest news. The Raiders came back down to earth when we traveled to New England and lost 20-36.
Ouch.
Yeah. It was bad.
Oh, my God.
We lost the second half.
Yeah.
We did. Derek Carr had an off day. He went 24 for 32 for 261 yards and 2 touchdowns. But that's not the off part. The off part was him losing 2 fumbles. The Patriots added an interesting wrinkle to what Carr faced. They double-teamed the check-down receiver. Have either of you seen that before?
Well, they were also dropping back. What was like cover 6 or something also? They were dropping back, a lot of defensive backs. Here's the thing, though. When you talk about taking away the check-down receiver, that was after Edwards was out. You know, so the biggest thing is they took away Waller, and then our Edwards went out. And so, yeah, he had nowhere to go except for Renfro. And Renfro had a hell of a game.
Waller was open, though.
He did. And not only was Waller open, but Moreau was open a lot of times, too. And I mentioned that there were a lot of open lanes that just weren't hit. When they took Waller out and then they started doubling down on the running backs coming out, Carr just didn't have any faith or confidence in going with those deeper shots to anybody else.
Yeah, he kind of came up with a lot of those stats during junk time. I mean, he wasn't horrible. It was just those fumbles were a big deal. They really
we were just talking about it, though. I'm going to say on the first one, I mean, he got hit in the head. Quarterbacks, that's a penalty. You're not supposed to hit the quarterback in the head. You know, it doesn't matter if the ball's out or whatever. He got hit in the head. That's a penalty. All right? And then again, on the second one, I've gone through this. I've watched it, whatever, right? But you don't run the ball out of the end zone, Rico Gafford, right? And then the block in the back, and then Simpson missed his assignment and let Shalik Calhoun shoot the B gap. And then let's just go and think about it like this. Don't you line up in 3 tight ends, I formation in that position and hand the ball off? If anything, you hand the ball off to Ingold, right?
Generally, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Wild Carr did lose the ball. It was almost to the ground. I mean, look, the ball was stripped out of his hands, all right? The ball was stripped out of Josh Jacobs' hands. Nobody's knocking Josh Jacobs for it. I'm just saying, look, like, think about it football-wise. They probably should have just handed the ball off at that point. But, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, definitely.
No, I agree.
You know, definitely not something I wanted to see. You know what I mean? But it happened.
Yeah, I'm not blaming Carr at all. I'm just saying that, you know, while statistically it looked like he had a decent game, he, you know, in reality didn't. But it wasn't all on him. I mean,
right. We
broke down in many areas of our game.
And if the game came down to just those 2 plays, I would understand, but it didn't.
Right.
And it wasn't on him. The offensive line didn't play great. The offensive scheme wasn't that great. And they laid a rotten egg.
Yes.
Is what they did.
Yeah, they did. All right, Josh Jacobs, he led the rushing attack with 71 yards on 16 carries. He had been limited to a snap count. He added 3 receptions for 12 yards. The referees ruled that he lost a fumble, but different camera angles revealed that he had possession.
Oh boy, and didn't they jump on that, start showing the tuck rule right after that, man? They loved that. They had that queued up and they were just waiting for a fumble to come, and it came, and they were loving it.
They did, but I'll tell you this: Mike Pereira and the officials that were up in the booth and back in New York, they even said, they showed where Jacobs recovered the ball, and they said the minute he gathered the ball in, he was down. You call that down by contact. They all said this is going to be overturned, and it was not. I was amazed.
Yeah. And Devontae Booker, he added 31 yards on 3 carries.
I like that kid.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, despite that one carry that he had where he fumbled, and of course it went out of bounds, it was inconsequential. I like what I've been seeing out of Booker. I wish they would give him more touches.
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised with his play. But the Patriots, they did hold Darren Waller to 2 receptions for 9 yards. And Brian Edwards only had 2 receptions, but they went for 48 yards. Unfortunately, he was injured and left the game before he could do more damage.
I was worried about his injuries. I was, and now here we are. And, the one thing to remember, Raider Nation, right, is that we were at first talking about all these weapons that we had. Now all these weapons are injured. So, stop all the car bashing. Stop all the get rid of John Gruden and John Gruden sucks. Here we go again. Everything that we thought we had or that we knew we had coming, as far as star players, they're injured now. I guess we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but I mean, Jonathan Abram, come on, man. That kid, he was playing bad. And not only what we're dealing with the injuries, but we were dealing with missed tackles. Where's Corey Littleton? Isn't he rated like the worst defender right now?
Yes.
He did not have a good game.
I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, like I say, you can't blame this on one person.
Yeah, it was a team loss.
Yeah, exactly. The Saints game was a team victory, and this was a team loss.
Right.
But yeah, Brian Edwards, he actually, when he left New England, he was on crutches. So that was a bad sign.
Yeah.
The one bright spot among the wide receiver core, Hunter Renfrow, he was the standout receiver of the game by snagging 6 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown.
Can we just put him at the number 1 spot now, the X? Can we just put him at the X now and see what he can do? I don't really trust Aguilar.
He belongs in the slot. He does so well.
I don't know. I think that Zay Jones and Aguilar could benefit from being up to the side. I'm even calling for Darren Waller to be split out.
Mm-hmm.
That would be all right. I mean, they do that periodically, but to put him there until the Ruggs can come back and Edward, that might be a good move.
I will mention that in Heidi's high five.
Okay, spoiler alert.
Yeah. And then clutch tight end Foster Moreau, he pulled in 2 passes for 25 yards and a touchdown.
And I'll tell you, I think that he's going to be a silent X factor in this coming week because he was open a lot in the game.
Oh, yeah, he does a lot of good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's not always seen and not everyone catches it, but he does a lot of good stuff.
He's run some good routes.
He runs slow, though.
He's an enormous red zone threat.
Yes. All right, defensively, Nicholas Morrow led our defense with 9 total tackles. Hats off to Nicholas. That's a tough spot coming in and filling in for Kwiatkowski. So hats off to him. He's out there playing his ass off. So I like that. And LaMarcus Joyner, Mo Hurst, and Corey Littleton each added 6 tackles. But I don't know. I'm going to be honest, though. I like their effort, but it looked like they were always catching them from behind. That's the one thing I want to say about that. They got a lot of tackles, but it looked like they were always catching them from behind. But I appreciate their effort, But Mo Hurst started out really well early on in the game, beating his guy. He was running people down. He was smashing people into the ground. I hope he can play like that the rest of the year.
Now, when Nick Morrow was making all those tackles, and I don't mean to badmouth our old buddy Tahir Whitehead, but I couldn't help but think about all the tackles that Tahir made running people down from behind.
Mm-hmm.
About 8 or 9 yards down the field.
Yeah, that seemed to happen a lot in this game.
Yeah.
But in the bright side is the dude was back at practice today.
Yes, thank God. They were talking about
they were
talking about the defensive line being in the wrong gaps, right? that's Nicholas. That's on Morrow. You know what I mean? But that's why we need Kwiatkowski back, because he's going to get those guys in the right gaps. So that can really help us versus Buffalo. So and we're going to need that. We need him in there badly.
See, and I think with Kwiatkowski back in the lineup, that's going to elevate Littleton's play.
Right. Max Crosby finally got on the board with 2 sacks of Cam Newton. I mean, thank God, finally, right? But we need it this week too.
I had my dog barking over those because I was yelling so much.
That's cool. We need him to do it this week too. All right? He's got to be consistent.
I will tell you, I was yelling at him, you better get a sack after he jumped off sides on that 4th down.
Oh, I was so pissed. But he did get the sack to end the next series, right? Right.
Right.
All right, and safety, Jonathan Abram grabbed his first interception and ran it back 24 yards to the Patriots' 14-yard line. And then he started missing tackle after tackle.
Yeah, bad angles and everything.
Oh, he couldn't break down or anything.
He started off looking good, though.
Now, they were saying that he had some internal bleeding from sliding into that TV camera cart thing, right? So, hats off to him, though, for playing injured. Trent Brown, right? Come on, man. I really appreciate that, though, about Jonathan Abram. Now this week, though, he's got to break down and just make the tackle. You know what I mean? If you're up on the line, go ahead and slam him around, but if you're the last line of defense, break down and make that tackle. And Daniel Carlson missed one of his 3 field goal attempts. He missed on a 41-yard line field goal that seemed to deflate the Raiders in their quest for a comeback. He was good on his 2 other field goal attempts and added 2 PAs. Yeah.
That miss was, I think that miss really affected us.
Yeah, I think it took the wind out of their sails a little bit, but he's not going to be perfect all year long. And it was a 41-yarder. Those are not gimmies.
Right.
But, I felt pretty deflated when he missed it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, overall, the defense gave up 250 yards on the ground. You can't win games when you do that at all. At all. And you could argue that the offense needs to stay on the field more. Well, true, but that didn't work. That wasn't working. The 3 fumbles, and just look. Let's see, what was it? A punt, a fumble, a field goal, a fumble, a punt, touchdown, missed field goal, punt, field goal, fumble, touchdown. Man, that was rough to watch. But that's why that defense got tired. Really, I mean, the offense wasn't really firing, on all cylinders, but. Still, though, you can't miss open field tackles. You got to make those. And the other thing is, right, awareness on this defense. It's not like the Patriots were, calling up some grand offensive scheme, right? They were calling screens and they were hitting the flats. You know what I mean? And then occasionally they'd go over the middle. But that's what. And every time they hit the flat, there was nobody around, and nobody was recognizing the screen.
Like my roommate said, we need to take our Raiders defenders and take them out to a pig farm and have them catch little piglets. Because if they can catch them, they can tackle.
Of course, what'll happen if you do that, at least 2 of our guys will get injured.
Oh, man. I remember saying that too. I was just like, man, I hope we don't get hit by the injury bug. I guess it was about 4 episodes back or so. And boom. I hope I didn't jinx us.
You jinxed us.
Oh, man.
Well, speaking of injuries, on the injury front, we played without Henry Ruggs, Richie Incognito, Trent Brown again, Nick Kwiatkowski, hopefully for the last time, and Sam Young, as mentioned earlier. Edwards also went down during the game, and he's going to be out for the Bills game and probably 3 or 4 weeks beyond that.
We need the bye week to come.
Yeah, I don't see them rushing him back for the Chiefs game, especially with the bye right after that.
We need the bye week.
This will give them 4 weeks of rest pretty much.
Yeah.
And I was encouraged because Michael Thomas, the receiver for New Orleans, who was out with a high ankle sprain, has been activated. He's coming back this week for the Saints. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that our receivers can respond in kind and get back after maybe 3 weeks.
Fingers crossed.
The sky is a little bit brighter after the bye week.
Yeah.
True. This is a tough stretch. This is a tough stretch of schedule right here. And we already picked up 1 win against a really tough team, New Orleans. So got 2 really tough games left before the bye.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Ruggs is a long shot to play in our game against the Bills. Now, have they already ruled him out? As of our airing is we're recording this Wednesday night. Have they ruled him out totally now?
Not officially on the injury list, but that comes from Ian Rappaport, so he's usually pretty dead on those.
What I'd heard earlier today was since he's a speed guy, they want to make sure that he's 100% before they bring him back. So they're not going to rush him back onto the field. So having said that, they're probably not going to suit him up this weekend.
Yeah, no, he did not participate.
So he's probably going to be a scratch.
Right.
And Jonathan Abrams suffered a grade 2 AC joint sprain and a small piece of his collarbone chipped off, and that was causing some internal bleeding after he crashed into the TV cart during the Saints game. Homer, you mentioned that earlier. He did, however, play against the Patriots. Wasn't his best game, but man, this guy's tough. He is the epitome of toughness when it comes to Raiders and what we think of when we think of being a tough Raider.
Yep. Yeah, we need players like him to play through injury. You gotta be, if you can play, get your ass on the field. Trent Brown, like that guy is really pissing me off, man.
He's pissing off a lot of Raider Nation. He's not endearing himself to a lot of the fans right now,
especially with his interactions with the fans.
I don't see a lot of people walking around with number 77 jerseys on right now.
I just wear the number 1 Homer jersey.
There you go.
You're such a homer.
Well, and speaking of, I've got more good news for you all. The NFL is investigating the Las Vegas Raiders for a violation of COVID-19 protocol after the team reportedly allowed an unauthorized person to enter the locker room at the Saints game.
Oh, boy.
So there's another bad brush with COVID. Oh, but it gets better. The Raiders are also investigating players who went to a gala thrown this week by Darren Waller. The players included Derek Carr, Jason Witten, and many others that were seen not wearing masks. Additionally, the event has already been fined by the city of Henderson by having too many people attend, and there were approximately 100 people, and it's supposed to be limited to 50. Now, I know that the Raiders are not happy about this as an organization, and the NFL has yet to make a ruling yet, but there could be fines and or suspensions involved.
Okay, and that brings us to the newest edition of Heidi's High Five.
All right, in this week's version of Heidi's High Five, number 1, how many times can the referee screw the Raiders in Foxborough? Josh Jacobs fumbles the ball and clearly recovers it, and yet the striped fools, who didn't even see the play, took it away from him. How many Subway subs did Bill Belichick promise to the officiating crew? That's what I want to know. As well as they were moving the ball, it's probably going to be 7-0 Raiders right there. That was momentum swing number 1. Number 2, at the end of the first quarter, the Raiders had 103 total yards versus just 38 for the Patriots. But Tony Romo even said on the telecast, even if you're doing that well, but you only have 3 points to show for it, you can't do that against Bill Belichick because he's going to figure things out. Well, that proved to be prophetic indeed. Number 3, how does Burkhead score at the end of the first half? Well, Morrow turns the play in, Abram whiffs, Hankins turns his back on the play and gives up, Lawson doesn't cut off the angle to the end zone, and New England gets that huge score at the end of the half, culminating in a 12-3 minute time of possession advantage and potentially the ball game right there. Number 4, how clutch was Carr at the end of the first half? I say STFU to all the Carr haters, because this man took the team all the way down the field with less than a minute left and capped it with a touchdown. They closed it to 3 at the end of the half and grabbed the momentum going into the locker room. At least that's what I thought. But then the wheels came off. And number 5, so here's what I'd like to see going forward. 2 tight end sets with Witten and Moreau, with Waller split out as a wide. Not all the time, but enough to scramble the defense. More runs by Booker and Ingold to give Josh Jacobs an occasional breather. Deep shots to Zay Jones and Nelson Aguilar, including a shot early in the game. And that will free up Renfro underneath. This team needs to score early and can't play from behind like it did last week. Cleve Ferrell gets his first sack of the year, and Trayvon Mullen gets his first pick. I see better days ahead, and that is this week's version of Heidi's High Five.
I like your game plan there. It's a nice little game plan there, T3.
I'm hoping. Maybe they'll make me an offensive coordinator one day.
That was a clutch.
Well, you'd end up doing as much as Olsen does.
Don't get me started.
That was clutch, though, at the end of the first half with Derek Carr. And we got helped by a penalty on that, right? Taking a deep shot, right? So, yeah, we need to do more of that. That's what I mean. That's why I am a Derek Carr fan. I've seen him come back 19 times. in the fourth quarter. We have never seen that as a Raider fan. You've never seen that. Yeah, that was clutch. Of course, it all, like you said, the wheels fell off in the second half. But
We'll see. And Zay Jones and Aguilar have enough speed that if they can get some separation, maybe you won't get a big completion, but you'll at least get a penalty. And that happened during that last drive of the first half.
And all it takes is one deep play to work.
Right.
And then they've got to be honest.
Right.
So what do you guys see happening in this week's game against the Bills? We're at home again.
This is a must win, but it's like a collective win. Like, hopefully somebody did go call a players meeting and they all got together and figured some stuff out. But to me, they got to be working on fundamentals, right? We know our offense can move the ball. You know, we got to convert the field goals into touchdowns. We have to regroup and be fundamental. Line up in the right gaps, and hopefully Kwiatkowski does that. Don't miss your block and give up a sack with the quarterback on the goal line. Just stuff like that, like just fundamentals, guys. Fundamentals. Clean up the fundamentals, and we can win this game.
So what's your score?
Oh, man. I think run the ball, right? I want to run the ball as much as possible. Take some deep shots, but, you know, we don't really have the greatest wide receiving core right now with all these injuries. So I'm going to stick to like 24-14, something like that, 24-21, somewhere in there. It's going to come down to like a field goal or something, like who has the ball last kind of thing. But don't let it get out of control. Let's play with the lead, but hopefully all we got to do at the end is just kick a little field goal and win. So I don't know. I'm tired of calling these games because that was stressful, the last one. But this is a must win because I'm not sure that we're going to be able to beat the Chiefs. Of course, it's any given Sunday, but I don't see us winning that one.
Heidi, what do you think?
And I'm going to be placing an order for some flambéed crow. I've got the Bills taking it 31-24.
Okay. All right. Now, here's what I think. Despite all the injuries, I think Gruden has the team buying into the next man up mentality. And this team is still more talented than last year's. Now, this is the game where I think Malik Collins and Corey Littleton will both step out of the shadows and really earn their keep. And I think the rest of the team will respond. A win at home is going to help get the bad taste of a bad loss out of our systems. I see the Raiders winning 28-17 and pushing their record to 3-1.
I'll take it.
I definitely think that these next two games can be split, but I don't see us winning both of them.
No, that's what we have to win this one. I mean, we're at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we want to be a playoff team, we got to win at home. All right. I know the crowd's not there and all that, but we're at home. We don't have to travel. You know, we like I said, just work on the fundamentals and protect our house. And I think we can win this game. It's gonna be a tough one though, but of course they're all talking about Josh Allen and all this and that, being mobile. But Cam Newton only hurt us a few times. It was just the screens and the flat routes that we couldn't stop. So I think if we work on our fundamentals and with Kwiatkowski coming back in, we will get this win.
Buffalo's due for a letdown too.
They're coming in flying high. Everything's been working for them. So we need to punch them in the mouth and play fundamental football.
And remember, they're the team that's making the long trip this week.
Good point. Very good point. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong.
Me too.
Well, Heidi, let me just tell you, if you do eat crow next week, it's really not all that bad.
Tastes like chicken?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Okay, and that brings us to our special guest for the day. Our guest today is a longtime member of Raider Nation. She grew up watching her dad lead the Raiders to their first Super Bowl title. He was the 1974 NFL Most Valuable Player, member of the 1970s All-Decade Team, member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and held countless Raiders passing records for a number of decades. I'm talking about Raiders quarterback Ken Stabler. Today, his daughter Kendra joins us to share memories of her dad and fill us in on the XOXO Stabler Foundation, which her family kept going after her father passed away. I'd like you all to meet Kendra Stabler Moyes. Thank you for joining us today, Kendra.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to chat with you guys.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on the Only Nation podcast.
We really appreciate you coming in. And there's there's so much connection between the Raiders past and present, and of course as we go into the future, and we so much want to not only thank you but also honor the memory of your dad as we ask you some of these questions, and I'm just going to start right out of the gate. And Kendra, I know that when your dad first came on with the Raiders, George Blanda took him under his wing. Could you describe the relationship between your dad and George?
Gosh, my dad just loved that man. He was a mentor from the start, and both renegades, and they both played for Bear Bryant, and just good old boys. And he, my dad had went to the Raiders and left, kind of pouting. And when he came back, his only job was to placehold for George. And so I think my dad was doing a lot of bitching and complaining, and I think George just kind of just set him straight and said, I've been here a long time, and here's the deal, and this is what the attitude you're going to have. And kind of just really did take him under his wing. And that was another reason, I think, when my dad went to the Saints, and people are always like, why did you wear 16? And, was to little nod to George. And it was very sweet. And they stayed in touch up until, George's death. And when my dad passed, got the sweetest letter from Betty, his wife, and just a good man. Yeah, my dad's coaches and George were extremely important to him.
That's
very,
great.
very much so.
And we had former wide receiver Drew Bowie on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, who came in when John Madden came in, and he was a teammate of Kenny's for a while, and he even indicated as such. And he talked about George Blanda and said that there was never a tougher competitor or more fierce competitor than George.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the stories that I would hear from my dad. I was young and I didn't pay attention. I was 7 when my dad won the Super Bowl. So it was, I could have cared less about football when I was a little girl. And when I got older, my dad would share stories. And it was just always great to hear him. And he always spoke so highly of him.
Right. Now, one of the things the Snake is known for was his calm, cool demeanor. I know that for some games, he even had a smiley face sticker on his helmet. What would you like the Raider Nation to know about your dad and the way he handled pressure?
Well, my dad was funny with that smiley face, because people would ask him all the time, and he would say, I just wanted them to have a nice day while we kicked their ass. And that was like his meaning for that. Yeah, he wore that smiley face a lot. I don't know where my dad got that from, and he never gave up. Yeah, he was always calm and cool. And when my dad passed, I had a lot of his teammates share, and they would all share kind of the same stories, from Freddie to Art Shell and John Vella and Raymond Chester, and they all would say, your dad had such a way of making us feel like, we were going to win no matter what, and that he had total control, and he was such a leader, and we just didn't want to disappoint him, and we played for him and for each other. And I don't know, my dad was like that his whole life, and he just didn't get rattled. He just never really, something, if he got knocked down, he'd just get back up, keep trying, and he would find a way to win and be very cool about it when he did it.
As a follow-up, I remember that, John Madden always said that if he had a last-minute drive and he had any quarterback to lead that drive, it would be Ken Stabler.
Yeah, that was so amazing when he said that. And I've had quite a few conversations. He would check in quite after my dad passed, and he was so upset because, my dad kept everything really hidden and private when he was battling with cancers. And he even said, your dad was just the coolest cat. Like, he was just so cool. So pretty awesome.
All right, Kendra, your family has always been very involved with charitable endeavors. Can you tell how the XOXO Foundation was established and what its mission is?
So, like you said, yeah, my dad has always been very philanthropic. His playing days, he was always trying to give back. He'd always go to the children's hospitals in Oakland and wherever he was playing. And then when he retired, he ended up forming his foundation, and he would do celebrity golf tournaments. He built the first Ronald McDonald House in Mobile. He raised so much money for so many different charities, and it was always just extremely important to give back. And so when he passed away in 2015, after the CTE diagnosis, we decided to continue on with the foundation, but we took up the sports-related brain trauma cause, and with his partner of 16 years, Kim Bush. And so we are just trying to just help raise money and changing the course and culture of contact sports and kind of just to increase safety at like the young ages. My dad was always so concerned. I think he knew that there was so much going on with his brain, but he didn't know exactly what it was at the time. And so it was very worried about my sons, his grandsons, playing, and with the concussions, and we started seeing the effects, and people would say, "Oh, that's just a Southern thing, repeating yourself." Or he hit a lot. He was such a tough man, but really around 2012, 13, we really started noticing it was going to progressively get worse and worse. And unfortunately, cancer did take him before the CTE did, but it definitely was going to probably get pretty bad. When he was diagnosed, Boston University, they created a 1 to a 4, and he was a 3++, and that's pretty crazy for, he's a quarterback, and you would think, they said he had a tear in his brain, and it was pretty advanced, and so he was definitely fighting it, and did pretty well at that. So that's really what our focus became, because when Junior Seau committed suicide, he turned to Kim and said, "I need to donate my brain." And then they didn't really know what it was, and then until the CTE started coming around and they did more research, he was. I know that it was super important to him, and he wanted to make a difference still. And by donating his brain, he did, and he continues to make a difference with that. So, yeah, so we've continued on with that. Right now we're doing, we've partnered up with Rivals Media, and it's a Raiders charity battle. And so you can go on their website or the foundation's website, and you can, every game you can place your bets, and it's super fun. And there's celebrities that are on the leaderboard, and you can play against. I think Jeremy Roenick was on there today, and I can't remember who else. But super fun, and all the money raised goes towards the foundation. And so that's our latest one right now that we're doing, and it's been super fun. I haven't done great. I played the last games, and it's super fun. So it's on Rivals Media. I think they're on Twitter, and then, or the foundation is XOXOStabler.org. And so you can find out more there.
All right, that sounds good. I'll have to check it out. Now, the one thing that I have always wondered is, why wasn't your dad enshrined into the Hall of Fame until after he passed away? Because he certainly earned it before that. Do you know anything about why?
I mean, we all have different speculations on that, but I think it's not funny, but why was he able to go in, after he passed? I mean, obviously his stats didn't change and nothing changed, so it was a travesty that he was looked over so many times. I believe, the voters are, sports writers, and my dad didn't have the best relationship with some of them. And there was a story long time ago, and my dad pretty much took it to the grave, but somebody caused a lot of problems for my dad, planted cocaine on a writer that was badgering my dad, came down to Alabama, And I think that followed with him because Paul Zimmerman, went on the record and said, as long as I'm alive, he'll never get put in the Hall of Fame, and he had a lot of power. So I'm thinking maybe that, because it definitely wasn't, he should have been there, and along with Cliff Branch and Coach Flores, and there's so many. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a Raider bias. I don't really know. I'm sure most of Raider Nation would like to know that as well. We're glad that he's there. He belonged there. It's just really sad that he wasn't able to enjoy, and he would have, given the most epic speech, and it would have been we did the best we could and had a great party, but, nobody could throw a party like my dad. And so, yeah, it's too bad, but he's there now, and it can't be taken away. But I wish he could have enjoyed it. But to be honest, he kind of got over it, and people would ask him all the time, and he'd say, you know what? It's not going to change the way I put my socks on tomorrow. And it wasn't something that was talked about in our family. When he made finalist a few years, I think it was 90, 91, 2000 something. Obviously we would get excited, but I think even he knew that it wasn't going to happen in his lifetime. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the best answer I can give on that. I don't know. It's very frustrating, and it's tragic, is what it is.
Well, I just hope that when he was finally enshrined, that the whole family was able to embrace that moment together, and share in a lot of the stories, and bring a lot of his former teammates in, and just kind of everybody revel in that moment, and just totally soak it all in and absorb that moment.
We absolutely did. I mean, it was incredible, and I was, when my boys unveiled the bust with Freddie, I was backstage, and I had, everybody coming over, and they weren't saying, talking to me about the football player that he was. They were just talking about the man that he was and the presence that he had. And so it was really great, all these Hall of Fame players coming up, and just big props to my dad. And then when, Brett Favre got up there and said his speech, and he wanted to be like my dad, that was, pretty amazing. So yeah, it was an amazing week, and it was a really great bonding for our family. And it was great that my boys got to be so involved, because my dad and my boys were so close. And so, yeah, I get a little emotional when I think about it, but it was good. It's a great memory.
Yeah. It's a shame that he didn't get to enjoy it. There are a lot of Raiders that aren't in the Hall of Fame that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Coach Tom Flores he's up this year. So what are your thoughts about Coach Tom Flores being nominated for the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Oh, I get so mad. I mean, I've probably been a little too vocal on Twitter, and I shouldn't be. I should just stay quiet. But it's maddening, because, I mean, you look at he's 6-1 against, Don Shula. He's got winning records against all Hall of Fame coaches. It just makes no sense. He was even all the first. I mean, with first Hispanic. I don't know how they can keep passing him up, because his resume speaks for itself. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know. I hope it happens this year. I mean, we say it every year, but I hope it really does happen.
Yeah, I mean, he won as a player, an assistant coach, twice as a coach. Then he went on to become a broadcaster. I mean, he has done so much for the NFL, there's no reason he shouldn't be in.
He's got the second most wins in Raider history. First is Coach Madden. He's got 83 wins. I mean, it's the list goes on and on. A Super Bowl in Oakland, Super Bowl in LA. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was another coach that was really important to my dad. And yeah, my dad and Coach Flores were very, very close. So I'm really hoping that he gets to experience what my dad did not.
Yeah. Me too.
And I'm just hoping that as the nation continues to embrace Vegas, and it seems like people are coming out of the woodwork, sports writers included, to kind of jump on the bandwagon, that's really going to make it easier for some of the Raiders that really should be in the Hall of Fame already to maybe get their just due pretty soon.
Yep. Yeah. I sure hope so.
So this seems to be my favorite question. I'm a huge Derek Carr fan. Your dad is a Raider legend, and he was a great quarterback. So for the past 5 years, the Raider Nation has had a love-hate relationship with Derek Carr. What are your impressions of Derek as a leader for this team, and do you think that is projected for long-term success with Derek Carr at quarterback?
I mean, I feel for Derek because I know what my dad went through. People can be just brutal, and I couldn't imagine if there was social media when my dad was playing. Derek is such a class act, and I think he's a true leader. I mean, he loves being a Raider. He's so loyal. And the poor guy, I mean, he's had to deal with injuries and changes to like every position and coaches. And I mean, he's been up a lot. So I hope he is our quarterback long term. I think he's great. I know he gets criticized all the time, but I'm all in for him. I'm definitely a fan, and I know my dad would be too.
Yeah, 19 fourth quarter comebacks. Anytime the game is close and we get the ball with 2 minutes to go, there's a chance that we can win this game. He's tough too. You talked about his injuries. He played with the broken pinky. He couldn't play with the broken leg. He injured his back and came back. And I mean, the guy loves being a Raider. And to me, I really respect that because they're not all athletes are like that these days. And Derek Carr is that kind of athlete.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. So, I mean, I hope he has a phenomenal season and maybe he can shut some of the haters up. And I'm glad he's getting a little more of a backbone with the reporters that just love to annihilate him. So yeah. I like seeing that fight and that he's getting a little more feisty because he is such a good guy. And so I'm glad he's fighting back a little bit because enough's enough. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, with a lot of the haters, there's only going to be one thing that's going to silence them, and he's going to have to win a Super Bowl.
Got it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I know.
But
we'll get there.
Yeah. But I sat at a dinner and with Jim Kelly, and we were talking about how hard it is to be a Hall of Fame. Didn't win Super Bowl, but. Which is frustrating because you won't shut them up unless he gets a Super Bowl. But that I just don't think that should be the end all. I mean,
right?
I don't know. It's a little frustrating, but
well, it takes a team to win, and like you just said, he's gone through player after player, coach after coach. I mean, we need to build a team around him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he has not had a lot to work with, and it's been I'm sure. Very frustrating. So, and he just keeps on going and keeps fighting through it. So I don't know. I just hope he just does phenomenal and just keeps it rocking.
Tell you what, there's not a whole lot of quarterbacks that you could take your number one weapon that you're going to prop up, and then right when the season starts, say, okay, that number one weapon, we're going to take it away. And now we're going to force you to change your entire offensive approach, and yet you still almost come out with a 500 record.
Yeah, and that was last year. And then this year, Ruggs is down. Now Edwards looks like he's injured. Like the Raiders are going through the injury bug. So, man, come on. We need to stay together, stay on the field, and let's win,
I know. Yeah. Well, I guess only time will tell. We'll see.
Kendra, is there anything else that you can share with the Raider Nation, with our listeners, that you'd like them to either know, either about your dad or the foundation, anything that you'd like them to just kind of take away?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I feel like there's been so much out there for my dad. I mean, obviously they know what the kind of player he was, but what I'm most proud of is the person he was off the field. He was obviously a phenomenal football player, but he was even better at being a dad and a grandfather. That role was just perfect for him. He was so good at it. And just what a kind person he was. He treated everybody equally. And I think that all started with his dad. You know, his dad taught him at a very young age. And you got to remember growing up in Alabama, that no matter the skin color or the background, that everyone was equal. And that carried with him his whole life. And I watched him my whole life. You know, he would treat the janitor and the president of the United States exactly the same. And I watched it my whole life. And so that is what I'm most proud of. A great football player, and I'm sure he gave some amazing memories. But what I love talking about is just the man he was off the field. Truly remarkable.
And, you know, that's probably the best example that we can give when we talk about Raider Nation and people being Raiders for life. I think that kind of embodies the spirit right there.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate you coming on this on the podcast. It's really nice to talk to you.
You're easy to talk to. You're a great group, and I wish you the best of luck with everything. And go Raiders.
Thanks. Go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
All right. Kendra, thanks so much. Appreciate you coming on.
You're welcome, guys. And Heidi,
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Man, that was a great interview. It was an honor to talk to Kendra, the daughter of the great Ken Stabler.
That was fantastic. And you almost get the chills down your spine and the ghost from the past of that famed 1976 team, which still is one of the best teams in Raiders history.
You know why that year was so good?
Because we won.
That's the year I was born.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's like I was born under a star.
That's cool because I was
And the Raiders
born.
took off after it.
That's so cool because I was born in 1980.
When were you born, T3?
Well, Abe Lincoln and I were roommates in college.
That's true. I read that he posted that on the internet the other day.
He went to law school and I decided to build skyscrapers.
Nice.
Okay. And now you just teach from the top?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's how I roll.
All right.
All right, give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave us a voicemail or a text message at that number or send us a message via social media and we'll share your thoughts on today's interview because that was a great interview and we want to know how you feel about this upcoming game. And let's just get over last week's game. So just this upcoming game versus the Bills and this interview that we had with Kendra.
Sounds good.
Let's get a win and let's put that smiley face back on the
Oh,
helmet.
yeah.
But hey, Homer, did you know?
Probably not.
All right. Got a little bit of Raiders history for you. Homer, you might get this one right. So let's see how you do. Now, the Raiders and Bills have played each other 41 times, with the Raiders currently holding a one-game advantage, 21-20. As a backstory to the game this coming Sunday, I'm going to take you back to the year 1979, which was Coach Tom Flores' first year coaching the Raiders, who were then the Los Angeles Raiders. That year, the Bills had the number one pick in the draft, and they drafted All-American linebacker Tom Kuzno out of Ohio State. But instead of signing with the Bills, Kuzno went with a double-the-money offer from the Canadian Football League Montreal Alouettes. Tom became a star for 4 years before finally deciding he wanted to go to the NFL in 1983. So here's where we come to it. The Bills still owned his rights, and they traded those rights to the Cleveland Browns in exchange for a first-round pick. And that pick became none other than Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly. He was the third quarterback selected in that draft and the 14th overall. Now, in that same 1983 draft, the Raiders drafted 26th, and they selected center Don Mosbar, who went on to have a fine career. Now, can you name either of the two players selected right after Mosbar to close out round one of that 1983 draft? I'll give you a hint. They're both Hall of Famers.
Man, I was 3 years old. Let's see. Lester Hayes.
No.
Howie Long.
Now, remember, these were picked after the Raiders pick.
Oh.
So, in other words, they were on the board for the Raiders
So
when they
another
picked
team
Mosbar.
could have picked them.
And these were, Right. These were picked by other teams. Heidi, any guesses?
Nope, you got me.
All right. Well, the answers are the player picked right after Dan Mosbar, number 27 in the 1983 draft, was a player by the name of Dan Marino. And then picked right after Marino in number 28 for that pick of the draft was Darrell Green, who Al Davis had a close eye on as a receiver.
Yeah. I should have known that.
And
I remember that Marino fella.
Yeah, there you go. So what could have been either way? And that is this week's version of Homer Did You Know?
Which I never do, unless it's a Patriots trivia question.
I like that part about Jim Kelly. I love Jim Kelly. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let that out.
Favorite person, too.
I'm amazed that he was only the third quarterback selected in that draft.
Yeah, I should have been thinking. Well, actually, you know what? I would have guessed that Marino went higher than that.
Yeah, I absolutely believe he should have gone higher than that. Everybody passed him up.
Well, that's what they did with Aaron Rodgers.
That's true.
Including us.
Now, as a bonus, you know who was drafted number 1 in that draft?
In the 82 draft or 83?
83 draft.
Herschel Walker?
Jim Kelly was the third quarterback selected. The very first overall selection was also a quarterback.
John Elway.
Oh,
yeah, and then we were going to draft him, right? But they had blocked us somehow. Yeah.
Right.
Imagine.
Now, wasn't Elway first selected like the previous year by the Colts?
No, they were going to draft him, and he refused to even acknowledge the
yeah, he told him he'd just go play baseball.
Because he went on, he played baseball for 1 year for the Yankees organization. Am I thinking of the right?
I think we should just go to the best segment of the show now, Heidi's Heroes.
We can all agree on that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Located near Las Vegas, Nevada, Creech Air Force Base is home to the famed hunters of the 432nd Wing and 432nd Air Expeditionary Wing. The installation hosts the global remotely piloted Air Force enterprise and related operations of the British Royal Air Force's number 39 Squadron, the 556th Test and Evaluation Squadron, the Nevada Air National Guard's 232nd Operations Squadron, and the Air Force Reserve's 726th Operations Group. This week, the Raiderettes and Raiders alumni visited to show appreciation to the troops. Among the alumni was former Raiders running back Napoleon McCollum. Now, you might be thinking that he's my hero this week, but you'd be wrong. Today, I think that the men and women of Creech Air Force Base deserve to be my heroes. They've been pretty isolated since COVID hit, but they continue to do their jobs faithfully. I'm glad the Raiders recognized this and went out there to honor them. Not only does that give me the chance to report on them, it let me come up with one of the most worthy Heidi's heroes to date.
That's cool. That's cool. I love seeing the Raiders do this kind of things, do this kind of stuff. Always giving back to the community, always, looking out for the military forces and whatnot. But, and the Raiderettes went out there, that put a lot of smiles on those guys' faces.
Yeah, you should have seen the videos of the socially distant selfies with the Raiderettes. Guys are standing there 6 feet away from them like, hi!
Check it out!
I can almost touch her.
And I feel really good for all the men and women who serve out at Creech Air Force Base, because they're going to be seeing a lot more of the Raiders. And we mentioned earlier how when the Raiders come in, how they bring in not just the military, but the entire community. And that's just going to benefit Raider Nation as a whole.
Yeah. When I saw this, I love Napoleon, McCallum and Kaufman. But when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? It's those women and those men from the Air Force Base itself. They've really earned it. They really have.
Yeah, they did. They did.
All right. Thanks again to our listeners for joining us on the Only Nation podcast.
Be sure you give us a call, Raider Nation. We want to hear from you at 904-701-8667. Leave us a voicemail or send us a text message to that number. You can also reach us at onlynationpod@gmail.com, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at onlynationpod. On Facebook and YouTube, search The Only Nation Podcast. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on your favorite social media accounts and podcasting apps. And don't forget to send us a message with your name and address, and we'll send you some free Raider swag. Also, check out the new website at onlynationpod.com.
Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
Gonna go get me a nice plate of buffalo wings and nosh away.
Yeah.